Have you ever walked through a city and just felt the past all around you? That's what a French writer named Théophile Gautier discovered in 1852. He took a new steamship from Paris and arrived in the city known today as Istanbul. He stayed for nearly 3 months, just soaking it all in. As an art critic, Gautier saw the city like a giant painting. He described the harbor, crowded with ships, and the grand skyline of Constantinople. He said it was so beautiful it was hard to believe it was real. He walked the streets for weeks, through markets and narrow alleys, and he couldn't shake the feeling that a different, older city was hiding beneath his feet. The locals called it Istanbul, but to Gautier, it was still Constantinople. This city was once the heart of the Byzantine Empire, and its history is wild. Byzantium started as the eastern half of the Roman Empire. While the West fell, the East kept going for 1,000 more years. But now, in Gautier's time, the ruins of that great city were just scattered rubble. The most haunting sight for him? The legendary walls of Constantinople. He wrote about walking a road that felt austerely melancholy. The walls were a crumbling mass of ruins, with huge moats in front that were now just farmland. These were the walls of Constantine, or at least what was left after time, wars, and earthquakes. Gautier saw fig trees growing from the towers and vines bursting from cracks. He described gigantic cracks and massive fallen walls. The whole scene was like a haunting dream. He could barely believe a living city existed behind these dead walls. It felt more like a place from a magical tale. He had to be thinking, how could these mighty, unassailable walls ever have fallen? What happened to the great legacy of Byzantium? To truly understand this city, we have to go way, way back, like 6 million years back. The Mediterranean Sea we know today was a very different place. Back then, it was a vast desert of salty flats, cut off from the Atlantic Ocean for 600,000 years. But that was about to change. A thin strip of land, just 60 kilometers wide, separated the basin from the Atlantic. About 5.3 million years ago, that narrow gate of rock burst apart. The Atlantic Ocean unleashed itself. A raging torrent of water thundered down waterfalls over a kilometer high. This channel carried more than 200 billion liters of seawater every second. That's 1,000 Amazon rivers combined. The water rose 10 meters a day. This process took a few months, or maybe up to 3 years. The force of this deluge caused earthquakes and mega tsunamis. This is the Zanclean Flood, and it's how the Mediterranean Sea was formed. This new sea was unique, a vast inland sea connected to the ocean by one narrow channel, the Straits of Gibraltar. Fast forward a few million years. By 530 BC, one city started to dominate the region, Rome. Rome succeeded because it was a master of military expansion. By 70 AD, the Roman Empire completely surrounded the Mediterranean. This age of peace didn't last. The first sign of trouble? A devastating plague. In 165 AD, Roman troops fighting in modern-day Iraq started to get sick. The illness spread rapidly through the army and along trade routes. The Antonine Plague, as it's known, killed millions of people, crippling the military and devastating industries. As the plague raged, the violent and selfish Emperor Commodus took the throne, and the long, slow decline of Rome began. By the end of the 3rd century, the empire was too big to be ruled from a city in decline. So, Emperor Diocletian split the empire in two in 285. The West was ruled from Milan, and the East got a new capital. This was the birth of the Eastern Roman Empire, which we now call the Byzantine Empire. One emperor, Constantine, fought his way to the top and reunited the empire. He made a remarkable decision. He built a new capital in the East. He chose a small Greek city right where Europe and Asia meet. This was the city known as Byzantion. An ancient oracle told Prince Byzas to find the land opposite the city of the blind. The city's location was a strategic masterpiece. It was at the narrowest point of the Bosphorus Strait, controlling all land and sea trade. Its harbor was huge and perfectly sheltered, and they called it the Golden Horn. Constantine loved this city. He renamed it after himself Constantinople and started a massive building project to make it worthy of a new imperial capital. He built a huge public square, a new Senate house, a massive palace, and the Hippodrome, a racetrack that could hold up to 100,000 spectators. Constantine also built a massive city wall to protect his new capital. He built the walls far out, expecting the city to grow. He was right. The city grew so fast that a new emperor, Theodosius II, had to build an even bigger set of walls just a century later. These walls were a sign of ambition and a world getting more dangerous. The Roman Empire was facing massive migrations of people. Theodosius was determined that Constantinople would not suffer the same fate as Rome, which was sacked by the Goths in 410 AD. He built one of the most imposing defensive structures ever seen, a ring of 3 walls with a wide moat. The moat could be instantly flooded. The final wall was almost 5 meters thick and 12 meters high, with 96 towers, each 20 meters tall. These walls were so formidable, they weren't breached for 1,000 years. These walls were finished just in time. The force driving the migrations was a terrifying group called the Huns. Their leader, Attila, was known as the Scourge of all lands. In 447, Attila marched his armies toward Constantinople. But as his forces approached, a massive earthquake struck the city. A whole section of the great Theodosian walls fell to the ground. The only thing left was a giant, broken wall. The citizens were terrified. But the city's prefect, Constantinus, had an idea. He knew the city's secret weapon, its immense spirit of competition. He went down to the Hippodrome. Chariot racing was huge, with 4 main teams, the Reds, Blues, Greens, and Whites, supported by fanatical gangs. Constantinus stood before them and made a simple announcement. The city was in danger, and their teams had to help. The declaration of a competition was irresistible. The gangs gathered everyone they could, telling them that the pride of their team and the fate of their city was on the line. More than 16,000 workers were gathered. We can imagine the frenzy. These sports fans climbing scaffolding, singing their team songs and jeering at the other teams. In just 2 months, the walls were rebuilt and even reinforced. This story of the walls is just one example of the incredible resilience of the Byzantine Empire. But the walls wouldn't stand forever. What finally brought them down after 1,000 years? If you're fascinated by this story of survival and collapse, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest moments. To watch the next part of this epic saga, check out the link in the description.